How many of you have heard of the story of Elizabeth Vargas, the ABC News anchor who in 2016 sat down with Diane Sawyer on 2020 and shared about her story of overcoming alcoholism and anxiety? I know many of us may have seen that or heard about it, and I'm sure many of you have not. By the way, I'm going to include a link in the comments to this video to Elizabeth Vargas's story. But let me just briefly summarize what Elizabeth went through. Of course, she's been a journalist for over 30 years. She struggled for decades with an alcohol issue. She drank socially and drank, in the environment of others for a long time, but eventually started to continue the drinking after the event was over, or found herself drinking earlier in the day or in the morning. And she really began to struggle silently with alcoholism. In fact, in her story, she really takes off her mask and becomes very vulnerable and shares how she would hide wine bottles uh, in the bathroom so that when she went to brush her teeth and lock the door, her husband wouldn't know that she was drinking an entire bottle of wine, just so she could get through the next couple of hours or do an interview. And of course, in time, when somebody struggles silently with an addiction, it catches up with them, and that sense of control that they have becomes very, very much lost as the addiction progresses and gets worse and worse. So Elizabeth, of course, had some experiences where she was professionally embarrassed and humiliated. She talks about in her story how she was called and told, at 8 a.m., you got to hop on and do a voice recording. She was away on a business trip, but her bosses called her and said, hop on and give us a hot take on this news story at 8 a.m. While she was still drunk from the night before. And she talks about how she went back and listened to that, and it was cringeworthy, but it was something that she needed to do to kind of take stock of how serious this problem had become in her life. Thankfully, thank God, Elizabeth Vargas finally, through many, many relapses and many, many stints in rehab where maybe she didn't fully open up, or she just wasn't ready, or she still struggled. She finally hit that rock bottom. And not that I'm thankful or anyone's thankful that somebody ever hits rock bottom, but we're thankful for what happens after people hit rock bottom, when all they have to look is up to God, up to others who really are in their corner. When your life is at its worst, and you've blown it, and you've made a huge mistake, and you've made terrible decisions, often there's a few people in your life that could be accessible to you to help you grow and change. But we have to take off the mask to let those key ingredients into our life. Let me briefly share what those key relational ingredients are that allow healing into your life when you can take off your mask. So, becoming vulnerable, opening up to somebody and saying, I'm hurting, I'm depressed, I have an addiction, I've been sneaking alcohol, I've tried for years to quit looking at pornography and I can't. And I feel like I'm out of control, right? I have a spending problem. I buy lotto tickets all the time, right? Or some sort of a secret struggle. It doesn't have to be an addictive pattern. It could just be how you're feeling. It could be a relationship that's really, really broken, a marriage where you're being beaten and nobody knows because we don't open up. We don't take off the mask. We struggle in silence. The vulnerability that is needed to let healing in, it lets three particular ingredients in, okay? Your vulnerability will allow grace into your life, it will allow truth into your life, and it will allow the gift of time with safe people into your life. Let me briefly break down what this means. By the way, all of this is covered in Dr. John Townsend's book, People Fuel, where he talks about how grace, truth, and time are the missing, for many people, relational ingredients that keep them stuck. They don't have people that show grace or truth, tell them the truth, or hang in there consistently with them through that struggle. But vulnerability is the key. Usually, when people have a struggle like an addiction or a secret habit that they feel ashamed about, they begin to feel that it's their identity. I am an alcoholic. I am a porn addict. I am a spender. I am this, right? And it becomes a statement of their identity. Of course, we've heard failure is an event, not a person. But we can say that to other people. But when we struggle, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. And you realize, oh my goodness, I cannot break this habit, or I cannot overcome this problem on my own. So maybe I'm a failure, right? And people isolate and they stuff that and they hold it all inside. And then when they go out in public, they put on the mask. People ask them, "How you doing?" "I'm fine. I'm good." Right? But really, they're not. They're not doing fine. They're not good. Their situation is at a state of critical mass. So becoming vulnerable, first off, we have to confront the lie of shame that says failure is you, not something that you're experiencing or have experienced. That's number one. Number two, people have been hurt. So sometimes the lie is there's nobody that will care. There's nobody that will listen to you. There's nobody that will get you. You're unique. You're an especially bad person. You're an especially messed up person. Nobody can help you. Your situation's hopeless. So the lies of shame keep people hiding behind their mask. Nobody will get it. Nobody will understand. I'm all alone, and failure is who I am. And I might as well suffer silently because there's no hope, right? But vulnerability, that point, whether it's because you've hit rock bottom and you're forced to be vulnerable because now you're in rehab, or something happens in your life, you're sitting in front of a counselor or in front of a pastor saying, "I just can't do it anymore." That's the moment where healing can begin to invade your life, because healthy people will give you grace. Grace means they care about you. Grace means they're for you. Grace means there's validation of the struggle. There's recognition that we all make mistakes. There's a sense of empathy for the pain that you're going through. That's grace. That's why that's so important to receive to heal. But the second relational nutrient is truth. So in order to heal, you need someone to tell you the truth. Okay. And it takes a trusting, gracious relationship to sort of set the stage for somebody to be able to tell you the truth, right? What doesn't work is to tell an alcoholic or somebody with an addiction, you need to stop. You need to stop drinking. You need to go to rehab, and you need to just change, right? It doesn't work. People put up their wall, they get defensive. But when they know that you care, when they know that they're cared for, there's grace for them, then it creates the relationship where they can finally maybe be open to hearing the truth. Okay. And the truth is this: in an addiction, there's powerlessness. In an addiction, there's secrets. In an addiction, there's minimization of how bad the situation really is. And so you need someone to coax out and tell you also the truth. But then time becomes that third relational ingredient that helps people heal. When I say time, what I mean by that is this: we all need relationships where there's follow up and follow through and consistency, where somebody's making the effort to say, "How are you doing? How are you progressing in your treatment? How are you getting better?" Right? The time component is critical. If we're the people that are loving somebody that's broken or struggling or addicted, and we give up far too soon on them, and we don't check in on them, and we don't encourage them, and we don't help them pick themselves up and help pick them up when they fall or when they have a failure, then we're giving them confirmation of the lie of shame, which is that you're a hopeless situation. So never give up on that person. Never give up. It doesn't mean that you put yourself in a position to be hurt by them, but it does mean that you stay for them and hopeful and believing that their healing is coming. Okay, so grace, truth, and time are the three relational ingredients you need to let healing into your life. So my challenge to you, if you're watching this video, is this: in your next small group, in your next meeting with your pastor, okay, in your next family conversation, or that friend gathering, maybe, just maybe, it's time that you raise your hand and say, "Guys, I am not okay. I need to be vulnerable here and say, I am depressed. I am addicted. My business is failing. My marriage is failing." Let healing in by taking off the mask. Discover how grace, truth, and time can begin the healing journey. Thank you for joining. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.